Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek program at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake, and I'm the education assistant here at the Arboretum. And today we are out front of the yurt yard because there are a handful of annual plants. There are even some in the background that are in bloom right now, which is very exciting. This is the time of year when we are planning out our annuals that we're going to plant in the garden, which is exactly why we have Bernadette Clark, our annual trial bed coordinator, here to give us a beautiful presentation on long-lasting annual plants. And we happen to be joined by Tim Alderton, our research technician, aka the birthday boy on this.
God.
Yeah, no, the secret's out. And the date's going to be,
Yes.
yeah, it is indeed Tim's birthday. Happy birthday, Tim. Thank you for joining us for this program today. Your knowledge is so useful, and we're very grateful that you're here with us.
Okay.
Those of you watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and feel free to leave a comment down below. And with the announcements out of the way, I think I can pass things over to Bernadette and Tim to go through this presentation of long-lasting annuals.
Okay, welcome. Glad y'all could join us today, and glad that Tim would join us today too.
Yeah, this is unplanned.
Yeah, very unplanned, but Tim is as we mentioned earlier, is a wealth of information. Grew up with.
I grew up in a greenhouse.
Yeah, in a greenhouse.
Doing annuals
so
and veggies.
So you have a lot of experience to bring to the
And in a different
the
climate
conversation.
too, so it's like there's some things that are different that I've learned over the years.
Yeah. So anyway, have they been looking at this slide?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
okay. In the recording of it, I'm gonna make it seamless. It's like magic. It's gonna show up out of nowhere. It's gonna it'll be really good. No
Okay.
worries.
Well, they don't need that anymore. So
Awesome.
we're going to be talking about long-lasting annuals. The question is, what do you mean by long-lasting annuals? We all know we have annuals that will grow. We'll plant them when we do our trials. They'll go from May and into the fall. Matter of fact, some of them will go even after the first handful of frosts. But what is an annual? We're going to, let me
What's a
back
true
up.
annual?
A true annual is a plant that has all of its life cycle in 1 year. So it starts as a seed, goes all the way through the growing, and and then it dies. So it is one season. That is it. We have, as we were talking about before, these annuals that for our climate we can have them over winter.
Occasionally. But they're not true
but-
annuals in reality.
correct.
And there's some on your list. But,
Correct.
And I'd like to try to grow those out in the landscape here. So it's
I
like,
think all of us
see.
like that because you plant it and
see
then
what actually will grow here.
Right. So that is what an annual is. One season, 1 year, and it's done. The other thing is, back to the long-lasting, we're referring to the flowering of these. So these are going to be
Or the main interest of it.
right, the main
Like
interest.
coas, we don't.
And that's why I have you don't know this, but I have a slide with that. So yes. Anyway, so in this area, central North Carolina, when should you plant your annuals? That is going to be, the rule of thumb is after our last average frost date. And for us,
Right now.
is the 15th. That doesn't mean that we can't have a frost freeze event. It's just that we generally don't.
Yeah. And some things like it a little warmer than even when that bridge period that we're in right now.
Right.
So it's better not to plant them.
Right. And so anyway, so just know that if you're in this area, central North Carolina, you still have to wait a little bit longer, just to be sure. We're all itching to get out there, but if you really have to do something, go out and start preparing your gardens, clean out your containers, your hanging, your window boxes, that kind of stuff. But right now, it's probably best for you to wait a little bit longer.
There's a handful of things you can get out.
Well, yes, but I'd say for the most part, you'll want to wait. Hold off getting stuff at the garden centers, although with that said, I know some of us have probably already picked up some things, and I've left them in the containers waiting for them to get a little bit warmer. So then we're going to move on. And this slide you're seeing now, it's a list of 14 groups of plants that when I looked back at our database, that they always rise to the top. So these are our groups of plants that continually or consistently rise to the top as our long flowering groups of plants. And these, what I'm referring to when I tell you about these reports, we do an annual trial report each year for the plant material that's in the trials. All that information, it's a wealth of information, is put onto the J.C. Raulston website. So when we are going through the plant material today, please know that you can look back at these also in our past years of reports. So just know they are available at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum website. And of these, I could read them off to you, but you can read them just as well. But these, like I said, are the ones that consistently perform well for us and flower continuously, nonstop. We're going to start with the begonias. Begonia is one that you can do sun or shade. But most of us, if you have shade, you're looking for something with a pop of color, and so begonias will fill that bill. The foliage colors, you can find them as green leaves. You can have them as bronze leaves. The flower colors, there's a wide array of colors. And the nice thing about with the begonias is that you can plant them in the ground. We can put them in containers.
They're really resilient. Even if you go on a vacation and then get the water quite well, they'll recover.
Are you speaking from experience,
no.
maybe? But the other nice thing about them is, for the most part, they don't need any deadheading. With the deadheading, most of what we're going to talk about, they will appreciate maybe a little bit of trimming, but
grooming.
You don't.
Just some basic grooming.
Grooming, but you don't have to go in there and whack them back. So,
especially wax begonias, they just drop their stuff. They're really cleaning.
Well, with the wax, that's right. With the wax begonias, the semperflorens, but you also have a wide variety of types of begonias. You got the boliviensis.
Yes, those are the tubers types actually,
and those are nice for hanging over baskets. They're droopers.
They do want more shade typically.
Yeah. Oh, let's go to the next slide, and that way you can be looking at a variety. I don't have one in there.
These are all the fibrous rooted ones, mostly what would be considered wax begonias, and these have done great for us. And as we're saying, long blooming, these grow from the whole entire season. Sometimes you'll get a seedling in, and it's only that big. I've seen them, transplanted them, and they're flowering. Yeah. So they really do go from end to end. And we're finding, actually, in our climate here in Raleigh, some of these are hardy. So we have some that really surprised me this winter.
We saw them under the shade. They're already coming back.
There's some that are clumps this big from last year. Those are, I forget which ones those are.
Big is the series that was out.
It's the big, and then there was the Stonehenge or something.
Oh, Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
Oh, hedge. Because of hedge. It's a play on the tallness.
Yes, and those there's two that we left just to see last fall, and they've all come back up, and out of just the 7 plants we planted at each of those. So.
Something to notice in this slide, though, is with begonias, you can have single and double flowers. So you'll notice that in the upper middle, the white flower there is a double white, and then there was a double pink below that. Okay. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to?
Those are just, again, they're just super resilient, and they are a true, and reality, they're a tender perennial. Yeah, begonias are tender perennials in reality. So they for us, they may survive, but we typically treat them as an annual.
Right. Okay, now we're going to move on to calibra coas. Calibra coas, probably one of my favorites.
Colors you get in them, so vibrant.
At the end of this, I'll show y'all one of the catalogs that we get. There are like 10 pages of the different color patterns, the colors, you can get stripes, you can get solids, so you have bicolors. Anyway, there's whatever color you want.
Flecks on some of them too.
Right.
Irregular patterns.
Right. And this is another one that's very versatile. You can put it in the ground. But if you put it in the ground, make sure...
Don't irrigate it. That's one thing we found. Because I have them in the ground in the garden itself, and they're perennial for me where I don't irrigate them.
And for us in the trial, since everything is watered each week, and the soils are very rich, and the calibra coas can tolerate
less than ideal conditions.
Yeah, less than ideal.
They prosper under less than ideal conditions.
Yes. So you've got a remote area of your yard that gets lots of sun. There again, you do need to make sure it's sun.
Yeah.
We don't want this one in the shade.
No, they don't want shade. They're actually a close relative of the petunia, and they're sub-shrubs in reality. So they are truly woody, and so. they will survive as that if they are perfectly happy in the spot they're at.
Right.
And I have one clump in the garden now. And
You showed it to me.
I have one clump that's from 2017.
Yep.
And then I have several others that are the last 3 years.
And if we have a long rainy period during the summer, it almost guarantees that if these are planted in the ground for my trials, that they die. So there again, put them in a drier location.
And a good container. They're excellent containers.
Right.
Like baskets and any sunny container you can put them in. They are wonderful.
And with the calibra coas, some series to be looking for would be the super bells. That's one. But originally it was series called Million Bells.
And that's how so many people know them, is because of Million Bells.
Right. And Million Bells were developed by a Japanese company in the, or bred, I should say, in the early 90s. So that's, some people may know it, as I said, as that. And there again, these come as doubles or singles as well.
And they're every color from, as you'll see on another slide, from yellows to oranges.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I
mean, and these are just a sample. And you get the singles and doubles now. And they fade to different shades, and there's just so much there for variation.
Well, the middle one up here to the right of the words calibra coa, that was I think something lemonade.
Yeah.
And that just beautiful. How could you not like that? That's just, it offers all the different colors, whether it's yellows to the roses. Calibra coas seem to they're beautiful. There's nice cheery flowers, but
definitely.
They give back a lot of flower power.
And you don't have to deadhead them either. Like their cousin, the petunia, which prefers to get a haircut occasionally, if not actually deadheaded. The calibra coas, you can just forget them. Right.
Okay, and then we're going to move on to another one that we're enjoying here in the trials, Sosia. And Sosia, as you can see on the screen here, it's another one that needs full sun. It comes in many types. There's the coxcomb, which all of us know is the brain plant.
Well, it looks like the roosters.
It's the rooster's coxcomb, or the brain plant as a kid, we called it. The plume,
and you got the spicata types too, which are a little different than that.
And I'm sorry I didn't put spicata on there. And but anyway, and that's another one that has a wide path of colors. No deadheading is needed on it.
The inflorescence can be dried, especially on the spicata types. They look dry to begin with and feel dry, and they just last. It's they are true annuals, even in our climate, and I think even where they're native. So.
And what's interesting on this slide, on the far left-hand side, the orangish yellows, that's part of this Flamma series that we got a couple years ago, and they've expanded the palette of colors with it, and they are electric. They are just, you have to walk to go look at these because they just draw you in. And
they love our summer heat. They are not affected by a hot 95-degree day or week, month at all. They just prosper in that, and they're quite drought tolerant once established too. Though if you're growing them pretty moist to begin with, you can't just stop watering them for one, and they might not be as happy, but they won't die by any means.
What's also nice about the Flamma series is that the plumes don't fade.
Okay. I wonder, is it a sterile one? I haven't noticed.
That I haven't seen anything come up, but I don't know.
The spicata types, often we get seedlings of those.
Yeah. And
they sometimes stay with you for years.
Right. And then the screen you'll see on the lower right is the rooster coxcomb type of one.
Is this the one in the upper right-hand corner? Is that new one that we had, that you had to do a lighting?
Yes.
But it was spectacular because of that.
Yes. And just superb. But there again, with the Sosia, it's the perfect plant for, as you said, a drier area, and it just blooms nonstop from the beginning to the end of the summer, and it's
They want it hot, though. I mean, if you put them out too early, they're one that you would not want to put out right now.
And when he says they want it hot, they want the soil temperature warmer. It's not necessarily the heat of the air temperature.
Now, as far as our soil temperatures in particular.
Right.
These don't come up, if you can direct sow these actually here, and they won't come up until June sometimes. Yeah. So.
unless you don't want them, and then every seed that dropped is the weed in the wrong place.
Kind.
Yeah, the
but they're easy to pull too. So.
Yeah. They just require attention. Okay, now we're going to move on to the kufias. And kufia is another one that's full sun. Mm-hmm. It is heat tolerant. The pollinators love them. And go ahead.
I was going to say, this is related to something else that you probably might have in your yard if you're here in the southeast, crepe myrtle. So think of these are crepe myrtle cousins. And how long do our crepe myrtles, most of them anyways, flower? They flower all summer. The kufias are much the same way.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And we'll go to the picture, and that way we're going to talk about the plant on the far left. You can see they call that a firecracker plant or whatever. I think that's the El Presidente.
Okay.
Cubano El Presidente.
From last year.
Yep. And that one, if you stood still in the garden and you just listened, you just be within like 3 or 4 feet of this thing. Blake's nodding his head.
Yeah, sure.
You could hear all the bees and things that were on it, and it would buzz.
And not just the insects, hummingbirds. That's a hummingbird species.
Oh, with the tubular neck there. But you could see the plant physically moving.
Yeah.
But if you were quickly walking past, you wouldn't notice that. It's when you stop, and back to this thing where you're talking about being mindful and present. That's what you noticed.
Absolutely.
You would see them. What else? Oh, it's I'm sorry. This was not El Presidente. It's Vermilion.
Regardless, they look very similar. So
yeah.
And I've grown. I mean, we've grown both of them now. Actually, I have Vermilion out at the pedestrian. I mean, the main entrance, and this is to be the 3rd year for it. So
yeah.
I didn't plant it.
Very vigorous grower, and it does get tall, but it's not that tall. You'd say about I was going to say about 1.5 feet, actually. I was thinking 1.5 feet to 2 feet of this one.
Yeah.
You think it's a little bit taller?
A little taller. I'd say 2.5. And I think the El Presidente was very similar in proportions.
Okay.
And it has survived this past winter as well.
Right. Anyway, so the kufias, you may also know them as Mexican heather, because there for a while those were trending as well. Okay, on to Impatients. There again, another plant that you might consider for the shade.
Yeah.
And with the newer varieties, series of plants, we have the sun patients, which are impatiens that are bred specifically for the sun. You have...
And they're New Guinea hybrids.
Right.
Typically.
Right. We're impatiens, there again, you can have double flowers, you can have single flowers. The color range is very wide. The patterns on
oranges, whites.
And we're going to go on to
more pinks and stuff. And you get bicolors, especially in a lot of the New Guinea types, which include your sun patients again.
Correct.
And after a few years, there were some issues with the true Walleriana types because there was a downy mildew issue, and they've overcome that with interbreeding some of the other species in, and you wouldn't even know the difference at this point.
Right, right. And as he said, that it was the downy mildew that took them off the table as even a possibility. The Walleriana, Anna, I guess, that landscapers, nobody could use them because they were so susceptible to that. So with all the breeding.
And the downy mildew was in the air. It's like it was everywhere.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Great now.
Sorry for the slide, because I know that it has a lot going on in it, but there are just so many different colors and different things to be noticing with these impatiens. But if you look in the lower right-hand corner, it's not a pretty slide. It's a pretty slide in that it tells you that deer love to eat impatiens. And I think it was during COVID when we had them underneath.
Did I have a deer problem maybe 1 year? It's possible.
I think it was 20 or 21. Anyway, we had the hanging baskets underneath the shade, and they were in a line. And the deer came in, and it was like a salad bar. They just went up to each of the pots, and they ate. And then when it got to where they were, because they were a little higher because of the slope of the land there, they stopped eating them. This is about where they stopped. But you can see on that basket, half of it's gone, the one that was easy to get to. But deer love these. So just be aware that if you're in an area that is has a high pressure of deer, this may not be the one that you want unless you can maybe pick up on them. Yeah, they love it.
Also with the foliage on the New Guinea types, often the dark foliage on them is really, I think it's an attribute that is worth growing them for, even whenever they maybe take a subtle pause in their flowering, or before they get really going. You can have some really nice foliage, especially in New Guinea. Sometimes you'll have an orange or yellow splash down the leaf on some of those too. So.
And as we said, this one also doesn't need any deadhead.
No, they're pretty much self-cleaning.
Yeah. Okay, then we're going on to Lantanas. Lantana is another full sun plant. It has a nice citrusy smell to it. I like it. Some people don't. Well, apparently Tim doesn't, but I like it.
Smell to me.
Well,
citrus with burnt.
No accounting for your nostrils. No. Anyway, so I do like it. To me, it's more of a citrusy. But anyway, they do have a fragrance. Smell them in the garden center before you buy it. If you find it offensive, maybe not. But if you like the smell, take it home. Flowers, there again, you have solids. You have these bicolors.
They change. They'll often open a pale color, a soft yellow, and go to a pink or an orange, depending on the selection. So you get that transition. Or they'll even open a white and go to a pink. Mm-hmm. And then there's some that are yellow to orange or red bicolors then. So it's just a tapestry of how they transition over their flowering period.
And another one, very easy to grow.
Yes, they love the heat here in the southeast. Mm-hmm. And again, there are some of those that are hardy for us. Some of the really compact, is it shamrock?
There's shamrock, is it lucky maybe?
And the lucky, I can keep them sometimes, but those are really compact ones. But the bigger growing ones, they'll often make it no problem to our winters here, as long as they're happy. I mean, don't water them during the winter. Again, it's that they like it relatively dry and they're happy as a clam.
They love the heat
and humidity,
and they love drier conditions.
Yes.
There again, with that caveat, once they're established,
yes.
You don't want things to be put in a droughty condition until they are. Right. Pollinators. We're going to go on to the next one.
Butterflies, just adore them.
Yeah. And you can't see this because of the glare, but there's a butterfly sitting on one of them.
There's this, that's one of my pipevine swallowtails.
Oh, is that what that is?
That's
okay.
What it is, yes.
Okay. But there you can see that you can have a wide range of colors, but just easy to grow, and it's a consistent bloomer. Will perform for you without end. It just keeps on going. Anything else on the?
I think that's good.
Okay. Then we're going to talk about marigolds. With marigolds, this is one that if you are new to gardening, this is probably one for you.
It's one that's great for kids too, because
and big kids.
You can sow the seed. Their patience, and when their patience is short, they don't have a long attention span. Yeah. Marigolds are great because you can have them sow the seed, and within a month and a half, they're in flower.
Yeah. And they're quick to germinate too.
Yeah, I mean, they'll germinate, so in like 3 to 4 days, you can have germination sometimes on those.
Mm-hmm. And there again, it's easy to grow. It's a wide range of colors. We have
oranges and yellows and bronzy
tones. There's a white.
Creams.
Well, okay. They stretch it by saying
it's white for a marigold. Yeah.
And they also have a scent.
Yes.
They smell burn to you too?
They don't smell burn to me, but they smell like marigolds.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been growing those since I was since I'm.
For a while.
Let's say 40 some years.
Okay, very good. There are different types of marigolds. You have the French marigolds.
Yeah, the Tagetes patula.
Yep, and then you also have the African, the
Tagetes erecta.
Yep.
And then you have the interspecific ones too.
So there's a whole assortment of things there.
Which are often called, I think, the Americans.
Americans or African. Yeah, that's the problem with common names.
Mm-hmm.
So as you were spouting out the scientific one, whether it's erecta or patula, it's sort of nice to know.
But the African one is not from Africa, it's from Central America. Just like
butterflies, other pollinators like the marigolds. I like marigolds because I think with their big flower heads,
they're bold.
You can bring them inside and enjoy them inside. I've seen in Southeast Asia where they make a big like the leis with them, and I just think
they use them in for like the Day of the Dead
that's true.
Central America, Latin America.
That is true. Mm-hmm. I think it's because they say they smell.
I don't know. I think the Aztecs probably grew them because they are from Mexico, and I think that's where a lot of that tradition comes from.
And
the Mayan and Aztecs.
And contrary to what Tim just said, if you look in the upper right-hand side, the back of that slide, there's some whites. Yeah, they really are cream, but that's as white as you're going to get with a marigold. Anything else you can think of? Just easy to grow.
Super easy.
Yeah,
and
tough.
I forget. It seems like back home we would plant them because the deer wouldn't eat them too much.
Correct. Yeah. No. Deer. They are. I hate to say resistant because
they will. I mean, if they're desperate, they will eat anything.
Right. So. Yeah. So if your pressure's high, or rabbits. Oh.
Theoretically.
No, but the rabbits.
They might nip it off. That's what I heard.
Right. They chew at it and then they go, we don't like it, but they still ruin.
And then
they
go to the next plant.
Yeah. Okay.
It might be different.
And speaking of the next plant, we got petunias.
I have some white ones in the white garden that are flowering right now.
Are they white or?
They're white.
They are white. They are white.
Last year.
Okay, they're white. Another full sun one. There again, it's heat and drought tolerant. You can grow them in hanging baskets.
Yes.
You can put them in pots.
The waves are so readily available now, but then there's also all the vegetative ones. There's so many combinations now. The colors they've gone to extremes on, which you're seeing a yellow one here, which that one's not even my favorite types of, or is that one of the better yellow ones? I mean, some of the yellows are better than others. They're getting better on these. And then there's the hybrids between the petunias and the calibra coas.
Yes.
The petuas or calatunias, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, they're just trying to make it hard.
They're getting some really cool colors out of those, I will say.
Absolutely. But you can see, looking at this slide with the different flower patterns, you have different colors. On the upper right, that's what I learned as a picotee, but they now are calling it a rimmed.
I call it a picotee.
Yeah, it's a picotee is what I call it. The lower right is one called bee's knees.
Okay,
and
the yellow one.
Has that beautiful deep yellow, saturated yellow color. I like that. And you have the star patterns that you see in the middle one. The one on the upper left, that is interesting. And once I point this out, you'll go, oh, that's there.
One, isn't it? Or not?
No.
Is that not one? That's when it keeps the star?
That's one that, the star here in the center.
I meant the bicolor.
In the upper left, look at it and you'll see it's a heart where the two dark colors merge.
Oh.
So they call them heart. They have a heart shape or heart pattern to them. Yeah.
I didn't see that till you said it.
No, I didn't either.
Not
but
see
yeah.
it.
I know. That's why I was waiting. I was like, okay, we'll just see if anybody notices that.
Then you have double.
And yes, you have doubles, you have singles of these.
And now they have these splotched ones, which I kind of joke with a friend of mine. It looks like they have water spots.
Headliner, I think is what it was called.
There's a couple different ones, but they have these splotches.
The problem with those, you alluded to it just a second ago.
Some of them are heat dependent.
Yeah. And when it gets really hot, they fade out to just the solid.
Exactly. We don't have in cooler summer areas like in the mountains. I think to be
would probably see those.
Where we have our hot nights here, I think is probably what does it.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. And we mentioned about the wave series. Wave series, as you said, just covers a huge area. A few plants cover a huge area.
The tidal waves, the easy waves, I forget
tidal waves.
Those actually are really good plants. I've been growing those myself since probably the early 90s.
Yeah. And you have the supertunias.
And the supertunias are the vegetative ones, and those have been wonderful.
Low maintenance. The pollinators are attracted to these as well. Then we'll go on to the salvias, and another full season or full sun one.
They'll take part shade.
They will? A little bit? Okay. Morning sun, afternoon, or just some sun? 4 hours or so?
I would grow them back home, even the splendens types, so the reds and orange ones, in half shade, and they'd still flower. Not as well as they will in full sun, though.
And, you're sort of showing
in
your
northern
age.
climate. I know, yeah.
Because
you don't see those as often anymore.
Yeah, and the splendens are what, when I first started, that was the only thing that was out there. And that was the one stalk, and you had the flowers off of that.
Yep.
And now they've gotten all the
Farinaceas and the Garnitica
and the hybridizing of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Salvia is another pollinator magnet. No deadheading with it.
Unless you really feel that you have to do it. No, there's no deadheading.
Right.
And again, these are a group. There's only like 900 species of salvia, and we consider a few of them as annuals, but they aren't actually. Most of them aren't even annuals that we grow as annuals. So, and I grow them as perennials too.
Right. Well, that's the nice
just
thing.
like the Farinaceae hybrid that you have in that picture, I believe.
Yes, it is.
So.
And well, that's like at home in some of my containers. I have the salvias in there, and I have one that looks like it's coming back. Yeah. So I have a friend, and we're going to give it some new ones this summer.
There's the new Garnitica selection hybrids, which I'm really liking, because I like Garnitica Salvia Garnitica, that it runs, and there's these hybrids that are well behaved, these nice clumps, though some of them are not borderline hardy for us here, the pink ones in particular. So actually, the one in your center is a fully hardy one as far as I'm concerned. That's a Salvia numerosa splendens, or Superba type.
Unless it's sent to us by the company, it's treated as an annual. But yeah, you're right.
That one's one I could grow in Pennsylvania, that type. So. But the rest of those are ones that, from Zone 7 north, would be considered annuals.
And these are pretty trouble-free. Insects don't seem to be a problem. They attract.
Actually adore, insects adore them, and hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Some of the insects, like there's a Garnitica here on the right-hand side of the screen, or my right, but I'm looking at it, so I don't know how it shows up to them. But anyways, they the bees will actually go in. They don't have long enough tongue, so they bore into the sides to get the nectar out. So yeah.
Very good.
But,
with that type of salvia, human beings can pull the flower
and drink
off
the
drink the nectar from the back like it's a honeysuckle.
Yeah.
Not with everyone, and I think it's weather dependent. Like if it's been dry lately, you won't get anything, but it's worth a shot giving it a go.
The Farinaceas, I won't do that with. I doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to another one of my favorites. It's Scaevola. It's also called a fan flower.
Yep.
And that's because the shape of the flower looks like a fan.
We've got some new ones of those this year that's going to defy that.
That's exactly right. And there were
we have star-shaped ones.
Star Diva. I think it's called Star Diva.
Yeah.
And that's from.
I don't remember.
I know.
Looked this morning
I looked at it. It's Star Divas are Suntory.
So
Suntories.
But yeah, for the fan flowers, they're great. They just keep on elongating and making flowering along the stems.
And used to be that they sort of died out and then just had flowers around the crown.
They've gotten so much better.
We're going to go to the next one.
They branch so well now.
So when you look at these pictures, you can see, especially like with the whites, you can see all the way across actually that was a hanging basket.
Yeah, these are hanging baskets.
So
on the ground, they're a great ground cover. Yep. They only get maybe 4 to 6 inches tall. Mm-hmm. But I did find rabbits do like to nibble on them.
Yes, they do. So that's another one that probably isn't friendly if you've got rabbits.
Great in containers. Yep. Wonderful in containers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have the series, the Whirlwind series, as well as the Sordiva series that are that did well for us here. But with the fanflower, I just like it. It just is. I think because it's a little bit different, and it's, as you said, it's a prostrate. It's a low grower one for us. Okay, we're going to go on to Trania. Trania is called a wishbone flower.
You have to look at the
you have to look
sexual parts of the flower.
Right, and we're going to do that on the next slide. So, anyway, it's a full sun flower. It also comes in.
They'll take shade too. They'll take half shade.
They will. As a matter of fact, Trania, I used to only think could be a shade plant, and it can go. Sun. It can be in the full sun. Actually, it's easy to grow. There's no deadheading with this one as well.
There's some that are grown from seed as well as vegetative forms.
We'll go to the next one because the one on the left, I believe, was one that I did from seed. But as Tim was talking about the parts of the plant that make it, or why it's called a wishbone, in that yellow flower in the very center.
Actually, do we have a cursor here? Oh, yeah.
Oh, we do?
Oh, darn it, I went back.
It's okay.
I went forward, I should say.
Right there.
Right in here.
Here. I don't know if y'all can see that one.
They see the cursor.
And it's the parts where they come together. It looks like the wishbone that we all get off the turkey.
Stamens. I'm not certain. Yeah. I don't think it's the pistil. I think it's the stamens are fused.
Yeah.
Give it that.
Yeah, I just know that's.
So the insect goes in here and rubs against that, and then they
get the pollen.
They crush the pollen on their head, and then hit go down for the nectar and get the pollen on this pistil.
And the other thing is that in Victorian times, if you went to ask someone to marry you, of course you would have had to go through parents or the father before you ever got. Anyway, you would take a bouquet, and in that you would keep some Trania because you were hoping, wishing that the outcome is what you want.
Did not know that one.
Okay, so you're learning all sorts of fun facts. Verbena.
Glandularia.
Oh, I'm going to say yes.
We'll love Glandularia and Verbena. Okay.
We'll indulge them. It's like, okay. We all know it as Verbena. It's another full season or full sun one. Drought and heat tolerant. It flowers its heart out. It's nonstop from beginning to end.
And they're already starting in the garden.
Oh, absolutely.
The ones that have overwintered this year.
Yes.
We have a bunch of them that did.
Yep. As you can see by the slide, it's a pollinator attractant. And it's deer resistant.
Yeah. The rabbits haven't bothered it.
Yes, and we did last year. Rabbits were cruel out here.
They're still cruel here. I will say that.
I'm going to go on to this one, but there are different kinds of Verbena.
So this is the Verbena bonariensis is still a Verbena.
Geez. Okay, so on the right hand side is the plant that Tim's talking about, and that one is a variety called Vanity. Vanity was an All-America Selection winner. And it is just phenomenal. I love.
That was the compact one, right?
I was going to say, bonariensis used to be just huge and just tall, but I liked them because they were open and airy. They've managed to keep all that proportion, and it's smaller, compact, beautiful, really vibrant color that stands out.
It's about what do you say, about 15 inches?
At least that.
Maybe.
I was going to say.
Instead of, it's almost half the size.
Almost 2 feet.
Almost 2 feet. Still,
foot and a half, 2 feet.
Half the size of what they used to be.
Right.
And so it still gives you that upright presence in the garden and the flowering. And I think the goldfinches still like the seeds on them, that was always a fun part. I love to see goldfinches would go for the seed heads on Verbena bonariensis, and then they'd go bob back and forth.
Like on a pole.
On a pole,
yeah. And another, like I said, another tough one for maybe some areas of your yard that are less than desirable.
And they really perform, especially on the bridge time. So this is one that is the spreading Verbenas. Right now, perfect time to plant them. I would not, there's something that's cold tolerant as well as heat tolerant. So they will great bridge plant for early in the season when if you are worried about that late frost. But these will go right into fall. They also really perk up late winter or late summer and into the fall.
The other thing with these newer Verbena varieties, they have made them or bred into them more tolerance to powdery mildew.
Yes,
and
that
so
used to be a problem.
You can still get it. It's just they are more resistant, so it's not as they just don't become ugly.
Exactly, and they'll survive through it and prosper still despite that.
And the Superbenas are a series that will do well.
I forget what's the one that's what's the one that we have over there flowering right now? Do you remember?
Cashmere. Superbena pink cashmere.
And I have that in the perennial border, and it's enormous and gorgeous right now.
It's just, it overwintered for us, and I wish we could take you over there to see it. It is just phenomenal.
If you're local.
Yeah, come and look if you're local.
For a couple more weeks, probably in the trials before we rip them out, but I have it in the perennial border as well.
Okay. The other thing is vinka. We're working our way through these. Won't be much longer.
You got the other name for it. Catharanthus.
Oh, yes. Just so you know.
Because there is the genus vinka is actually a very hardy, almost weed for us. So
another tough one. It's another one that's good for our heat and our drier conditions. No deadheading with the vinka. A multitude, full sun, multitude of colors that you can.
They've expanded it so much. I remember when I was young, you had white and you had kind of a purpley, lavendery shade. It was not great. Now you have these shades of pinks and reds and bicolors, and there's even some peachy tones on some of them. It's like there's so much more now.
Right, and
the habits.
With the vinka, what's different about them? The flowers. The upper right, the middle, and the far right hands are. It's a series called kawaii, and it's another Suntory product. But kawaii in Japanese means cute. These are small, cute.
So it's not kawaii like the island of Hawaii. That's what I always thought.
Maybe Kauai is named because it was cute. I don't know. Anyway, so they're small, cute, but they a multitude, a plethora of blooms that just covers from one side of the plant to the other.
And they're super compact.
Yep. And they're smaller. They're shorter than the others. But
are those vegetative or are those?
Those are. I get them as vegetative.
I don't know that I've ever seen seedlings from those.
No.
We'll get seedlings from some of the other seed strains.
Right, of others, of the vinkas. But this just shows you there's an assortment of colors, flower shapes, heights.
You don't have any of the spreading ones in this, but there's ones that are actually prostrate.
Yes.
That are so cool. We sometimes get those in the trials. And those are wonderful as well.
And they're doubles. There's some doubles. We're going to have some of the doubles in the trials.
Those are new.
And then we have just a few more slides. Zinnias. Zinnias, another one that's a good one for beginners.
Yeah.
Zinnias have. I think that was probably one of my first. Petunias and zinnias were some of my first flowers.
Same here. I mean, zinnias, my mom. I mean, I remember going to the hardware store and you have 10 for $1 seed packets, and you'd get a whole bunch of cosmos, zinnias, bachelor buttons, and a few other things, and toss them all together and then throw them out.
Right.
And they'd all come up.
Right. But zinnias don't need a deadhead. It's good for cuts.
It's our commonly called cut and come again.
Oh, there you go.
The bigger one, the ones that are for cutting. So
true. And I'll go to the next one because you'll see there's some double flowers. There are
these are the Maryland densus types.
Yes, most of them, but not all.
Yeah.
And the very center, the middle, that huge slide or picture is of a variety called Profusion Red and Yellow.
Did we get that
bicolor?
Did we get that the first time during COVID?
Maybe so. Because it was a number.
It was like, we really liked that.
Yes, and it was phenomenal because all those colors are at the same time on the same plant.
It's just a tapestry.
It is. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And that was part of the All-America Selection trials. And that not only performed well for us here, but all across the U.S. And it became their first gold medal winner.
Yeah.
That they'd had in many years, and so it's a rare event to get it. And this company with this seed just knocked it out of the park. You just don't see this on a plant.
And the great thing was that a profusion, right?
Yes.
So I said Maryland densus here a minute ago, and no one else probably heard that, but that's a group that. It's crossed, I believe, is it Angustifolia or Linearifolia? I can't remember which it is, but the thin-leafed one crossed with elegans, and you get these, the elegans, which were the standard zinnias, used to get powdery mildew like crazy. You make these crosses, and they're resistant to it, and they are wonderful bloomers the entire season on those because of that. And the plants look fun, and will look great.
Right, and they're easy and they're fun. You know, it's just an easy plant for not only a beginner, but for all of us to enjoy. This slide is just because we've already worked our way through the ones that were the long blooming, consistently year after year in our database. But these are some others that were close to the top that I still think we need to talk about. Everything from the geraniums. The geraniums, they've gotten not only the clumpers, but they've gotten more of the...
They're crossing the old bedding geraniums, Pelargonium hortorums, with Pelargonium peltatums, the ivy leaf geraniums. And you're getting these really cool intermediates. They're self-cleaning, and they flower so well. The foliage is clean. They're just great plants.
I love them. Calliope was a series.
That's one of those interspecifics.
You used a term that I think you probably should tell them what it means.
The interspecific?
or self-cleaning. Self-cleaning.
Yeah, they don't set a lot of seed, which is good, but they also shed, they're semi-double to single flowers most of the time in my experience, and they shed the petals without you having to go back there and snap off all the inflorescence, which was what you used to have to do to keep that geranium looking clean.
The little pom-pom.
After a heavy rain, they'd all turn to mush.
Yes.
They don't do that anymore. They're really good. They've overcome that.
Arboretum was another one that was frequently towards the top, and dry conditions.
They're fine and dandy.
Yeah.
There's a new one in this year, which I potted up some of your spare plants today. So
I'm
really looking forward to trying it. I am blanking what it was. Anyways, it was.
Come out this summer and see it with us. We'd love it
because we haven't had many ageratums the last few years, and that was something that I grew up with, and I really like ageratums. Just the fuzzy flowers on them, and there's often two tones. You'll get two shades of white and then a blue, or just
they call those floss flowers.
Floss flowers, yeah.
Because of that, I think.
And I remember those, and I grew them for years. And so just a great plant from my memories.
and Angelonia on the right-hand side. That's become, I think, a much nicer plant than when I first was introduced to it.
They used to
flowered, and then it would become just a hedge.
Exactly.
And it wasn't attractive at all.
They've gotten into, they flower the entire season, and they've added colors too.
Beautiful colors.
And structure.
Pinks, whites, these blues. And
it's more compact, anywhere from, you can get them 6 to 12 inch, or probably 12 inches tall, but then there's the bigger ones that get to 2 feet tall, but they all used to be like 2 to 3 feet tall.
Yeah. And then they bloomed their heart out, and then were just like a hedge the rest of the summer, not attractive at all. Lower left is the Gomphrena. That's a personal favorite of mine.
That's related to the Sosia, so and they are really cool. They're dry to begin with,
right?
And they're just always there. They're great.
Heat tolerant, but I like them because the flower on those. I used to make flower lays out of those, and they were just a fun thing to do. On the lower left is a variety called Fireworks.
Okay,
Fireworks.
That one's been around for a while, and it gets big.
And it's just.
It's a nice airy plant.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Are these Las Vegas or the other picture, maybe?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
That's one of, and then there's something
I had a mix.
And there was something, is it gumball? Not gumball. Oh, pinball series.
Pinball or ping pong?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But those are much more compact and great for edging, but they give you color the whole season.
And the last one I want to talk to is about the sunflowers. And only because sunflowers, we usually think of one and done.
Yep. They've got that big head and they're done and then they look ugly.
But with recent breeding, they have these multi-stem, multi-branching ones that are coming out. Suncredible is one that is a proven winner one.
And they'll get 3 to 4 feet tall, and they might be 3 to 4 feet wide, and they just flower the entire season. And
the flowers are
the inflorescences are small.
3 and 4 inches across.
They're small enough that they're great for cutting, and they keep on coming. And I think they still make nectar, but I think they don't make pollen, and they're sterile.
Well, the bees
so that's why I think they're getting the nectar, because the bees still go to them. But they're sterile, so they aren't setting seed, and that's why they continually flower, I think.
Yeah. And there again, I just, I love this new series, the Suncredible.
Just a couple of them, but they're worth it if you can find them.
And then we're just going to wrap it up pretty much with the next slide. So I just want you to always think about, we say long flowering, but you don't get color only from flowers. And most of what you see on the screen, though, are things that need to make sure the ground is warmer when they go in. But the coleus is one that flower colors, or leaf colors rather, the patterns, the shape of the leaf itself, some of them are more indented than others.
They'll take sun or shade.
Yep. And
the same way with the caladiums, the same way now.
Right. And the caladiums, we had those in a trial several years ago, an extensive trial with them. And they're wonderful. They are just
don't worry about planting them until it's really warm.
Yeah.
I mean, June is a good time to plant them. You can just plant the tubers if you can find them, or plant the plants, because they don't like it cold at all.
And then lift them in the fall.
And you can lift them and you store them dry, but not like you would think of as a bulb cool place. You want to put them in where it's 60 to 70 degrees, 65 to 70 degrees.
Oh, I always thought you put them underneath in the
Keep
crawl
them warm.
space.
They want to be warm. And they'll all survive, and then they'll just pop back up and start repot them or plant them and water them.
Another thing is the sweet potatoes.
Yep.
They're another one that they're again the leaf shape and the
flowers
leaf color.
Are spectacular.
Well, yeah, no, you don't grow them because of that. But I think the pattern of on the leaves are attractive, and they have the colors aren't so
they
wide,
blend in well with other things.
Right.
They're good to mesh things together and just unite everything. But you don't want, they can be a little vigorous. That's the only thing.
Oh, sweet potatoes, yes. So where you normally plant maybe 5 or 7 of something,
or
put
10,
2 or 3.
Put one.
Probably one. Also in this group, I put Acalypha. We used to see that in our trials. I haven't had that in a long time. It has the leaf colors.
Yes,
and
copper plant?
It's copper something, yeah. And then another was the Alternanthera group.
Yes.
They have, I think that's an underutilized.
And Iracenes.
Yeah. I think the Iracenes are locally they call a chicken liver or chicken gizzard
Something
plant
like
or
that.
something like that. Yeah.
But the sweet potatoes, so we have, I mean, NC State is well known for their sweet potato breeding program. And there's a couple others here. I think Alabama also has an ornamental sweet potato breeding program now. And there's a couple other places.
Louisiana.
But they are all centered, all these breeding programs are in the Southeast because they grow so well here.
They need the heat and humidity. Okay, I think just wanted to remind people that April is National Gardening Month. So for us, since the 15th is our red letter date, all of us need to make sure we're participating in Gardening Month, and just please go out there and create some magic. Lower right-hand side is a group of our past interns.
Those are from 2000, let me think,
21 or 22?
21.
21.
I have to think.
We did a bed of, because it was the year of the sunflowers, so we did a bed of sunflowers, and they were out there weeding that day, and I told them all to go jump in front of the sunflowers, and it's been one of my absolute favorite pictures
Between
now.
our interns, though, and the volunteers that we have here at the Arboretum, they make the trials possible for us here and help us to maintain and keep it looking good.
We couldn't do it without our volunteers, especially the volunteers. They are here weekly. It takes quite a bit of effort and weeding to go through. So I am very appreciative for all the work they do. And then we'll just go to the next thing to say thank you very much. We appreciate you coming. And Tim, I appreciate you coming and having a chat, and Blake for you chiming in as well. And we can answer questions, but I'm going to set up the seeds if that's okay.
Okay, go for it. Follow your art.
We were talking about annuals. Annuals are some of the easiest things to grow from seed. Seed is economical. It's also just, I think growing from seed is fun. I know some people find it scary, but I think it's just an amazing activity, because you go from, and I'll be showing you these different flower or seeds, and I'll ask Alexander if he can get them. They range in size. We have very small, we have larger seed, but they're all easy to do.
And they've made them easier. I see you have pelletized seed there, especially for petunias, which are truly minuscule if you try to sow them raw seed. But they've made it easier, and they what you can buy today.
I have the raw one.
Yeah.
I have on the petunias. I did show the raw. It's called raw. They're not pelletized. They pelletize them now so that you can do it mechanically, but also because if you do it manually, you can see it. I don't know if maybe that would be better to do it like this.
But they've also, the seed is so much available now that it's all clean too. Like I see the marigolds there, they don't have...
They're detailed.
Exactly, they don't have the chaff on them, which helps disseminate them in the wild, things like that. So they make it so easy.
So don't be intimidated, and it's a...
And it's like I said earlier, if you are afraid, start with marigolds. Even the dahlias, those are super easy.
Yeah, you can see how
dahlias and marigolds are easy.
If you do cannas like warm soil.
It helps maybe to scratch them a little, maybe.
You could. You could. I don't.
Okay, so that's good.
But I was going to say with the, and I'm sorry, I guess that's it.
There's a breeze.
But with the cannas, they like warmer soil temperatures, so it's best to wait till it warms up. If you do them inside. If you do them inside, you probably need a heating pad or something like that with them. But anyway, so there was that, and I also, thank you. Well, we get catalogs from the various companies, but when I was talking to you, may I pull that down? Or is
don't close it all the way, but there it is.
Okay, we were talking about like with the multitude of colors and the patterns of things. I selected the calibra coas just to show y'all that that's just one page. That's easy to digest. This is one of like about 7 other pages this company puts out that shows you different colors, different patterns, just an amazing assortment of things that you can pick from. But anyway, so that's why I just wanted to, I guess the main takeaway is annuals are not hard to do from seed. But I understand if you want to buy the finished product,
it's easy now, and there's so much available.
But don't be afraid to try it, and it's wonderful to see that process. I call it just the miracle of going from dust. When you saw the petunia seeds, you go from dust to the beauty of that finished plant. I mean, that is just incredible, and it's also self-satisfying to do it, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
So Any questions or?
There are questions, and I love how Bernadette, before we did this program, she was like, this is going to be 20 minutes. I'm not sure it'll be much longer than that, but we did
It's
take
48.
up...
Oh my God!
we
I'm
took up the
sorry.
whole
I'm
hour.
sorry.
58
I'm sorry.
minutes.
We
I'm
normally would cut things off here, but I do want to get through all of your questions. I'll just say thank you, everybody, for tuning in thus far. We're entering now into the extended director's cut of this program.
I'm
so
sorry.
if you got somewhere else to
We
go,
both
please
talked.
go there. You'll be
Oh,
able to
sorry.
catch the answers to the questions in the recording. But so let's go. We'll still kind of do like a lightning round, get kind of
Okay.
through it because we are...
Quick answers.
Yeah, quick answers. But so you guys did a good job of talking about which ones are deer and rabbit resistant. Which are the best, most deer resistant and most rabbit resistant?
Probably Lantana.
Sounds good, but I was going to say, depending on your pressure,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter.
Salvias and Lantanas would be some of
Yeah,
my recommendations.
Okay, Salvias and Lantanas. That's a good, and that's for both deer and rabbits.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't. Those are some of the things I have the least issues with, and I have rabbits in the garden. I don't have deer, so
And yeah, and say, well, we have had deer
not
here.
right now.
But anyway, yeah, we're digressing. Let's do the
No
lightning
worries.
round.
You're fine. Susan wants to know if either of you have ever grown Tilotus. The
Yes,
T-I-L-O-T.
I have.
It doesn't. I don't think it does well here. It's from Australia. It's from
Okay.
a dry climate. I
Yeah.
think California, Mediterranean climate's going to be a much better
There's a
spot to be
variety
growing that
called
for a,
Joey.
yeah.
It's probably what she's
and we've
referring
killed
to.
it several times. I
And
think.
yeah, it's just, I think, too humid here, maybe.
Yeah.
And there again,
Or
when it's in our bed, it's watered every
Yeah.
week. It's rich soil, so
it wants
maybe
a
if you
poor,
had a
drier climate.
Maybe
West
you-
Coast, California. I mean, maybe even higher, cooler night zones than
Yeah.
here. Like even the mountains might do better than it does for us here in southeastern North Carolina.
yeah.
So Marilyn's been having some fun experimenting with overwintering sun patients.
Okay.
She's overwintered it
They're
indoors.
technically perennials, yeah.
She wants to know how warm does it need to be at night before she can put it back outside.
I mean, right now, if you've had them, and I would acclimatize them at this point, and
Okay.
just start putting them out and leave them out for most of the day, but don't put them in full time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And let them back accustomed to being outside. And by the time they've acclimatized for a week or so, you're probably okay.
Yeah, and then she also wants to know about should she shake off all the soil and repot it? But she's treating it like a perennial.
Is she going to do it in the ground, or is she going to plant it as a?
I
in a
assume
pot,
this is a perennial in a pot that's going to be ferried back and forth
Okay.
I would.
throughout the
I'd
rest of its
leave it.
life.
I'd leave it in the
I mean,
pot.
you could. After a third year, you might want to swap out some of the soil.
That sounds good.
The second year, I think you can get away with it, but you're still going to have to give it nutrients. Say, if you wanted to repot it, knock off anything loose and put it in something that has some fertilizer already charged into it. Like
For sure.
Beneficial, but other than that, you don't have to.
I don't like knocking off all the soil. I mean, it's a lot of it, but not all of it, because
No, just part
you'll
of it,
break
just
up a lot
let
of
some.
those finer roots, and that's what I'd be concerned with. But anyway,
Sure enough, but it's a perennial. It always has been a
Technically.
perennial, but now you're
We're
treating it
growing
like
it
a
as a
perennial,
perennial.
so treat it
Yeah.
like a perennial.
yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Meredith wants to know which petunias are the most fragrant.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry,
No.
Marilyn.
There's
I
some
do
of
not
the
get
antique
down.
ones that you could.
Yeah, I don't get down on the
I-
ground to smell it. So I was going to say I can't help.
Yeah,
do
that's
that.
hard to say. I would go for some of the older seed strains, the antique ones, but I don't know offhand any of the
Yeah.
modern cultivars.
Oh goodness, I should be
They're
able to
not.
drag
I
some
don't
of
know
those.
if they're selecting
they're
for
not-
them. They're going for more color and
Yeah,
structure
yeah.
Yeah.
and pattern than they are for fragrance right now, I think.
And I'll just say that you never know if a plant is fragrant until you stick your nose in
Exactly.
it. I actually learned today from you that Lantanas are fragrant. I've known
The
that plant
the
for
foliage
years,
is pungently
and I never
fragrant,
thought to stick my nose in it.
It's a
Anyway.
little bristly,
Well-
too, so you might, it's like sandpaper, like my.
Well, this
Yeah.
summer, come out and we'll make sure you stick your nose into
Yeah,
one of the
for
plants.
sure. I will certainly do so. Okay. Susie says, please do a program on perennials. Susie, we did a program on perennials just for our Day of Giving. It was called Perennials You Can't Kill, and some that we have. And I will go ahead and put I'll do a funny little YouTube thing and put a little link to that in the recording so you can watch it from there. But we're constantly doing programs about all kinds of plants. This was the special one about annuals today, and it's been wonderful so far. All right, Sally wants to know, how do you prevent Verbina from getting leggy?
You can give it a haircut.
A haircut, when?
When it gets leggy.
There it is. I love it.
But there again, you don't whack it back too
No, you want to
severely.
cut it back to nodes, and if ideally has some leaves, but if not, it's okay. Sometimes, if you let it get too woody at the base, you could kill it if you cut it back too hard. And I think that's probably what you're insinuating.
Yep.
Okay. Susan wants to know if the Verbina cashmere is available locally or if that's just only in trials still.
I mean, that
It's
should
locally.
be available.
She should be able to find it. It's Superbina pink cashmere. I really wish, I mean, even if he just panned out there, you would see it because it is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. It's up midway up after the
one of the only things that you can see over there, maybe.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
Come out to the garden, and it's a great one.
That's right. Come out to the garden.
Beautiful.
Come out to the garden.
That's just good advice. Okay.
We will be planting the trials middle of May, and so
In a couple of weeks, we'll rip out the last of what's remaining.
Yep.
In
And
preparation.
so make sure you come soon.
Okay, so Anne says that vinka is an invasive plant. Don't plant it, please. Would you
That's
like
a different vinka. That's why I was saying.
You'll
That's
notice
why I
on the
said
side-
catharanthus.
Yeah, it said
I mean,
catharanthus.
catharanthus will self-sow, but it is not an invasive in our climate. Vinca minor is what she's thinking of, and Vinca major can be a little bit aggressive as well. Those are both kind of like sub-shrubs, more or less, and ground covers. I mean, they're related, but they're not the same plant at all.
Wonderful. Okie dokie. Meredith wants to know where the best seeds are. Good sources for
There's so
seed?
many now. I mean, there's fewer than there were decades
Years.
ago when everybody was mail order, but there's some great catalogs that you can get.
Yeah.
And look online. I mean, there's so many places to look nowadays.
Park Seeds been around. Johnny's has stuff.
Yeah.
I like territorial.
I mean,
Okay,
everyone has their favorites.
And I'd say you just look online because there really are. There are so many.
There's ones that specialize, say, in heirloom stuff. Then there's ones that specialize in the modern stuff.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah, definitely. And your local garden center. They got
Exactly.
seeds too, and they're happy to sell them to you.
Right.
or just buy an established plant from one of our growers here
Beautiful.
in North Carolina.
Absolutely. Okie dokie. Catherine wants to know which lantanas reliably overwinter in zip code 28461. How about instead of answering that, you just
Where's
let
that
us know which is the
where's-
most, what are the most
So
cold tolerant?
So it says Bald Head Island. Is
okay,
that where she's
Bald
look-
Head
so
Island. She can grow just about anything.
Yeah, she should be able
She can
to.
grow almost anything there.
any of the lantanas
Any lantana.
without worrying
Just
about
Camera,
dieback.
Lantana camera is going to be
Unless
hardy
we
for
have a really bizarre
winter.
cold winter.
the coasts. You can, they're going to be hardy. If you're inland, it's not going to be one considered an annual. Miss Huff is one of the hardiest, and as well as ham and eggs.
Ham and eggs.
And that's in our
tried and
sale.
true.
That's in our
Yeah,
sale.
those are two tried and true ones. I don't know if there's any left. Who knows?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You can check.
Okie dokie. Are there any annuals that will bloom well in partial shade?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I mean, a lot of the salvias actually will. I mean, most of them will take partial shade. The impatiens, the begonias,
I say the begonias, but your
even
impatiens,
petunias will take a little bit of shade, no problem.
a lot of
there's
those,
things.
depending on the,
It's the dense shade that becomes problematic.
yeah. And is it partial shade all day long,
Yeah.
or is partial shade when it gets? Yeah, it's like anyway.
There's options for the
Yeah.
Trania, things like that. Those will be fine.
Great. Great. And we
The
talked
coleus.
about
Yes, coleus anytime. And caladiums. Coleus and caladiums.
yeah, for sure. Alrighty. And Girish made a comment that they found that the coleus blooms attract pollinators,
Yes.
and I can corroborate that. We
They
certainly
tend
don't
to be
grow.
late season. They have actually been they're selecting against flowering early.
Right.
But still,
Absolutely.
there are still most of them flower before the end of the season, and they give some late season nectar to a lot of your
Yeah,
pollinators.
definitely. So that's wonderful. And if I am not mistaken, I do believe that is the end of our
Okay.
questions.
Good.
So thank you so much, Bernadette, for pulling together this presentation for us. It was wonderful. Somebody said bubbly Bernadette. Thank you so much for doing this. So that is
Thank you.
exactly. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for doing it. Thank you, Tim, for
No
joining
problem.
us to help supplement this conversation, make it a lot more interesting and informative. So we really appreciate that.
Yes.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us for the midweek program today. We will be back next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. I believe we are going with Dennis Zenas is going to go on one of his research rabbit holes and give us the real secret life of plants and talk to us about all the fun little studies people are saying about plants talking to each other and that kind of stuff. So that should be interesting. We're gonna look at it from a scientific perspective, and we're gonna cut through the chaff, and it's gonna be lots of fun. So make sure you join us for that. We'll see y'all next time. Y'all take care.